Shaw Cable, dedicated to the community, service, and you, proudly presents Spotlight on UNBC, the University of Northern British Columbia.
Brought to you in part by Northland Chrysler Jeep and Northwood Pulp and Timber Limited.
Northland Chrysler Jeep, home of the #1 selling minivan in North America, is located at 3rd and Vancouver in Prince George. Northland has been in business since 1984. Northland Chrysler Jeep is a proud sponsor of Spotlight on UNBC, a program designed to let you know what's happening at your university. Northland Chrysler Jeep, your Eagle and Dodge truck dealer, is where people make the difference. Northwood Pulp and Timber is a proud sponsor of Shaw Cable 10 and its volunteer-produced television programs. Northwood also supports UNBC. As a partner in progress, Northwood has donated $350,000 towards the scholarship fund. When matched by the government, it represents a contribution of $700,000.
Hi, and welcome to Spotlight on UNBC number 13 for the month of March. On this program, we're going to hear of developments in the Faculty of Research and Graduate Studies. We'll check out the new guide to UNBC, find out what happened at a Maritime Research Institute hosted by UNBC in Prince Rupert, and visit the Nechako River watershed with Fulbright scholar Jack August. But first, a step-by-step approach on how to apply to UNBC. My name is Rob Van Addercombe, and I'll be your host for the next half hour as we shine the spotlight on the University of Northern British Columbia.
Spotlight on UNBC with your host, Rob Van Addercombe.
This is an important time for UNBC. Construction of the Prince George campus and the academic hiring campaign are two major projects that are being done in advance of the first big intake of students. Now, for those people wanting to become UNBC students, this is application time. Application forms are contained in the calendar for the 1994-1995 academic year, but the application for admission really is a pretty simple document. It's only 1 page long, and right here, right at the very beginning, is all of the personal information, things like your name, your date of birth, your address, things like that. Secondly, the date of intended entry, when you actually want to start taking UNBC courses. Number 3, academic intentions, what programs do you want to take once you get here? And in this section, you also must determine whether you want to become a full-time or a part-time student, and whether you want to take courses in Prince George at the main campus or one of UNBC's regional teaching centers. Now, the second page here, when you flip it over, deals with academic history right at the top. Here you indicate what high school you attended and if you attended any colleges or universities before wanting to come to UNBC. And then you sign it to make sure all the information contained in here is correct, and head right on down to number 7, the checklist. Here is probably the most important section of the whole document. You must determine here whether the application fee of $10 has been enclosed and if all the transcripts from these previous institutions are accompanying the application form. But really, applying is only one step of the application process and is followed by 2 steps. The second step, once this is handed into the registrar's office, is evaluation. At that time, all qualified applicants are admitted. And then admitted students are encouraged to register. That means they can actually pick the courses they want and the times they want to take them. And once a student is registered, they officially become a UNBC student. UNBC received its 1,000th application for admission early last month, and while BC high school students saw the deadline for early admission come and go on February 28th, general admission for all applicants will continue until the summer. Details on the 21 undergraduate and the dozen graduate programs is available by calling 960-6305 in Prince George or 1-800-667-8622.
Good afternoon, Officer Registrar Lisa speaking.
While the recruiting of undergraduate students is a high-profile activity at UNBC, so too is the development of master's programs. Last month on Spotlight on UNBC, we started a series examining each faculty at UNBC and the programs each will offer starting this fall. We began last month with the Faculty of Natural Resources and Environmental Studies and continue this month with the Faculty of Research and Graduate Studies.
The single most important reason why UNBC is offering graduate programs is that UNBC is one of the 4 BC universities. It's smaller to begin with, but it is no less a university than Simon Fraser is, or the University of British Columbia. And a university, almost all universities, certainly the other 3 in the province, have graduate schools. And if we're going to offer the full range of programs which the people of Northern BC demand and the people of Northern BC deserve, then we have to offer graduate programs as well.
A dozen master's programs will be offered at UNBC starting this fall, ranging from biology to psychology and environmental science to political science. The programs with the most demand, however, are likely to be the professional programs like education, health, and social work.
So far, we've had about 60 applications. We've just admitted the first couple of students. I mean, 60 applications from qualified graduate students, and they're not all admissible, but 60 applications, many of which are from qualified graduate students, is quite a lot, considering that graduate students care more about where they go than undergraduates do. In other words, undergraduates typically outside BC would go to a university that was close by. Well, if we get graduate students applying into our graduate biology program for McMaster, for instance, as we have, that means that somebody at McMaster has confidence in us. As it happens, we have a faculty member who came from McMaster, and the student knows this faculty member. But the fact is that they don't have to come to UNBC. The person's qualified, could go to the University of Toronto. Why are they coming here? Because they have confidence in us. And I think that's a very heartening thing. Quite apart from the local demand, from the people here in the ministry, in the environmental studies, teachers, people who want to do social work degrees who've been waiting for years for a degree to come to them so they wouldn't have to quit their job and move to the Lower Mainland. So yeah, I think they're going to fly. A, because there's a local demand. B, because our programs are going to be good, so people will come from elsewhere. Because people come to graduate school because they, in large measure, because of the faculty. And if you've got good faculty, you know, if you hire them, they will come, as the movie says.
I think that's an exciting opportunity, that I can actually be on the ground floor doing this instead of coming in when everything's established. And that's one of the...
Christina Hunter of Prince George has been the first student admitted into a graduate program at UNBC. She'll begin a master's degree in political science this fall, having already earned a BA from the University of Victoria.
3 or 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to do something that I really always wanted to do in my life. And one of the things I always really wanted to do in my life is to study political science. I have always been very interested in communities, state, power, why laws are made, why some people get to make those laws, why other people follow them, why do they follow them. And so I was given the opportunity and I took it on, and I have no regrets. It's something that I really have learned a lot. It's made me think very critically about everything that goes on in the world. It gives me a much greater insight in what's happening, not only just locally, but provincially, but globally, and how they're all interconnected. It just gives me a little bit more knowledge than I had before.
The reason we're having graduate programs right at the beginning is that a university has a research function as well as a teaching function. And the research function is really important to the region. It's also very important to the faculty. In order to attract first-rate faculty, you've got to give them the option of teaching graduate students, because teaching graduate students assists in their research work to a considerable extent. For instance, if you have a chemistry professor, for instance, that chemist is going to be working in the lab and is going to want to have research assistants. And the research assistants usually are graduate students. That's the first reason. The second reason is that there's a great demand in UNBC's region for certain graduate programs, particularly the professional ones. There's a tremendous demand, for instance, for Masters of Education programs. There's a demand for nursing graduate programs in community health, for social work in particular. And there's also a demand for more conventional graduate programs such as history, for instance, or First Nations, which is one of the ones we're going in for. So there's also a big demand. But you can't be a, quote, real, unquote, university without offering a graduate program.
Regular viewers of this program, or people who have visited the Prince George campus before, know that the library and laboratory buildings have had a presence here for more than a year now. But up until only a few months ago, a concrete foundation was the only evidence that the faculty administration building would be built. Well, this wood-structured building has come along rapidly and is now one of the more interesting examples of architecture on the Prince George campus. The Faculty Administration Building is one of two buildings on campus which uses wood as the primary structural component, the other building being the Conference and Fitness Center. The main feature of this building will be a glass-roofed atrium running through the middle of all three floors, bringing natural light to nearly every office. The university administration will be housed in this building, and as such, departments like finance, services, human resources, research, and communications will all be located here. In addition, each of the deans and some faculty offices will be here, along with some academic support services like regional operations and university-college relations. The basement will be the main shipping and receiving area and the center for computing and telecommunications. Laminated boards are used for the horizontal beams, while a new kind of laminate called glue-lam towers nearly 40 vertical feet. The window frames have recently been installed, but this building likely won't be finished by the time the other campus buildings open in September. Instead, people and furniture will be moving a couple of months later. Regional advisory committees have recently been established in the Northwest, Northeast, and South Central regions to advise the university on various regional issues. Inaugural meetings were held recently, and those in attendance included representatives of local governments, school districts, and First Nations groups. UNBC President Geoffrey Weller held a news conference after the inaugural meeting for the Peace River Liard region, at which time he outlined the mandates of each of the three committees.
They are committees to advise on regional priorities. We have lots of other ways of linking with the communities and with professional groups. I mean, we have advisory committees attached to each program. So the nursing program, for instance, has advisors from the nursing profession and the health professions. The forestry program, the same sort of thing. But we need to get a regional perspective to know what the priorities of the Northeast are, so that we can link with those priorities and do the appropriate thing.
UNBC's North to the Future campaign is well on its way to meeting its target of raising $10 million over the next few years for scholarships and bursaries. But the program added a new dimension recently with the launch of community legacy campaigns.
It's an opportunity for communities to get involved in raising scholarship and bursary dollars for their individual students in order to be able to attend the University of Northern British Columbia. The communities will get involved through local fundraising activities.
Now, where are they going to be initially?
Initially, we have started out with Valemont in Houston. They are currently, and we've just been up to visit with them again, and they are currently in the planning stages of putting their campaigns together, which should be starting very shortly. We have had tremendous support from the communities. We have been into a number of communities. Approximately 8 or 9 of the communities we've already had initial contact with, and they see this as a tremendous opportunity for the community to get involved, to be able to show support for their own local youngsters to come to UNBC and have them stay in the North, get trained in the North, stay in the North, and obviously live and do their business in the North.
Plans to develop a maritime research institute in Prince Rupert got a boost last month during a public forum held on the North Coast. We have this report from CFTK television in Prince Rupert.
The University of Northern BC recently announced the appointment of consultant Chris Campbell. Campbell, who will head up tomorrow's meeting, says the main objective is to hear what the community thinks about the proposal. Campbell says that includes what the business community thinks of a maritime institute.
This is an opportunity, I think, for the economy, the culture of the Northwest to say, we want an academic institution in Prince Rupert, this is the sort of things it ought to do, this is what it ought to look like, this is how it should relate to the rest of the community. And I guess, you know, I see this as a major opportunity for the community to put a flavor on this, to make sure that this is something that is designed to meet the future needs of Prince Rupert and the Northwest region, rather than designed as an extension of an educational institution.
Campbell says tomorrow's meeting will also give him a better focus of what type of institute the community wants to see. As expected, one of the focus areas of the proposed facility would center on fishing.
One is the whole area of maritime transport, marine transportation, and that involves everything from sort of materials handling, ship management, even trade aspects, and we sort of have to decide which of those are the important ones that the center might focus on.
Campbell says another possible focus for the Institute would center around fishing resource management and the marketing of seafood products. Tomorrow's open house will take place at the Crest Hotel from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. Dave Hardy, First News, Prince Rupert.
UNBC and Northern Lights College are presenting a speaker series starting at the end of March, celebrating the bicentenary of Fort St. John. Called Dinosaurs to Derricks, the series will explore the history and prehistory of BC's oldest non-native settlement. UNBC Vice President and academic Ken Coates will examine the impact the building of the Alaska Highway had on the Fort St. John area during his presentation in mid-April. Ken Coates and Bill Morrison, meanwhile, have just published their 7th book together. Entitled Working the North, the book chronicles the experiences of workers who came to northern BC in the 1940s to build various defense projects like the Alaska Highway. The closing date has come and gone for contractors to bid on the first student residence planned for the Prince George campus. The 274-bed apartment-style complex, however, will only be able to house a portion of the students expected to arrive from outside of Prince George when classes begin this September.
Presently, we feel that we're going to have approximately 1,000 students arriving in Prince George that are going to be looking for accommodation. Of those 1,000 students, 274 of them will find accommodation on campus. We're still short approximately 700 beds for students off campus. That's what we're going to be working on now, is ensuring that everybody in Prince George realizes that we're looking for off-campus housing. We're producing a couple of brochures to give them sort of a guideline on what to expect with students who will be looking for accommodation, and things that they can use to clarify in their own mind whether or not they want to have a student in their home or not.
While UNBC is the first university to be built from scratch in this country in about 25 years, UNBC can learn from other universities which have been built in northern regions. One of those is Novosibirsk University in Siberia, and one of its faculty members recently visited UNBC to explore the similarities between Siberia and northern BC.
I think it will be very helpful in changing the profile, the standard profile of a frontier region, which is ostensibly heavily biased towards natural resources, and which emphasizes less on opportunities for local residents to develop themselves as personalities. So the university will be offering a broad spectrum of additional opportunities, and as a result, the overall social and economic development of the region will inevitably become more harmonic and healthier than it used to be. It was a big problem in Siberia, by the way, and over some 20, 25 years, the region unfortunately failed to resolve this problem. Siberia was experiencing a clearly colonial pattern of development, again, a great deal of emphasis on natural resources, and a significant neglect of social infrastructure, of other areas of economic activity, and the University of Novosibirsk was perhaps an attempt to address it. It was to a large extent a successful attempt, but it was not enough for such a big region, since northern British Columbia is more compact, or smaller, at least in terms of its population. I can easily predict that this university will be a major factor in its forthcoming social and economic development.
Finally, the new guide to UNBC has just been published. The new guide contains information on undergraduate and graduate programs, plus information on student services, facilities, and the faculties. Copies can be obtained by calling 960-5666. And for all the latest UNBC news, call the info line 24 hours a day at 960-5678. The new UNBC Board of Governors met for the first time several weeks ago, and a couple of large donors were recognized during the event. This area, which will be the social heart of the campus, will be called the Northwood Winter Garden, in honor of Northwood Pulp and Timber's $500,000 contribution to the UNBC North to the Future campaign. And a student lounge to be located adjacent to the Winter Garden will be called the Doug Little Lounge, in honor of the Northwood Senior Vice President and UNBC advocate who passed away last year.
Northwood is excited about the University of Northern British Columbia and the contribution it will make to the community we live in and work in every day. We've played Northwood's people have played a role in the university since it was first undertaken. One of your board members and my predecessor, of course, chaired the implementation committee, and as has been mentioned by Geoffrey, Doug Little, who was Northwood's first employee, has been a long-term supporter of the university and helping it develop and grow. And certainly our board of directors supports the university, and we look forward to a long and continued relationship. Thank you.
Canfor also contributed $500,000, which, when matched by the BC government, will amount to a total endowment of an even $1 million. The contribution was the largest single amount Canfor had ever given any one organization. And as a result, this large lecture theater on campus in the Conference and Fitness Center, which is the largest lecture hall on campus, will be called the Canfor Conference Theater.
It's particularly touching for me tonight that this is a night where you honor Doug Little. And Sheila, I'm so delighted to be here personally because I had the privilege of knowing Doug from the time he first came here, at which time we were in the very early stages when Prince George had no pulp mill and a population of 12,900. We've both seen a lot of progress, and CT, it's a great honor for us to be on the platform with you, because industry may be rivals in some things, but I think we're partnership when it comes to the future of education and the importance of having a well-educated young population in Canada. So we're very proud and thankful, and we hope that this is just the beginning of a very close association between a great university in the making, and we wish you nothing but success. Thank you very much.
A serious workplace accident occurred here in early March. Scaffolding used by 3 bricklayers working in the rotunda area of the lab building collapsed, sending all 3 men to hospital. The first received cuts and bruises. He was treated and released. The second suffered a broken leg, but the third was most seriously injured, suffering a number of internal injuries. The Workers' Compensation Board was called in and will be issuing a report.
As the site safety rep, as well as the first aid attendant on site, I find it first and foremost. The company policy is they are not compromising productivity for safety. They are to be held on an equal plane, and as a result, they want me to make sure that that is upheld.
Frank Janas has been the Site Safety Officer on the Prince George campus site ever since construction began 2 years ago, and in that time has seen much more than simply the construction of the main campus buildings.
Thousands of Band-Aids. Basically lots of Band-Aids, the odd injury to the eyes. I've seen a number of lacerations and cuts once the steel studs started going in, but every kind of conceivable bruise and difficulty that would be encountered in a construction environment. When I do my site tours and talk to the fellows, I usually meet with a positive attitude, because they see me, they usually put their hard hats on if they're not on, and if they're a little too high up on their ladders, they come down, and I usually have a pretty positive rapport with the people. But safety, they see me, they automatically equate, oh, here comes the safety rep, and we better be careful, eh? So other than that, people are, appreciate that. When I do the safety indoctrination, each new employee that comes on site I indoctrinate, usually Monday morning at 9:30. We sit down and we go through common problem areas on this site and what to watch for. We go through evacuation procedures, first aid, how to summon help in case of an emergency, and evacuations. All of that is covered on their first shift. Usually we try to get it on the first shift when the new people come online here, just to get them acquainted with it, orientate them where the say the air horns are for summoning help, as well as the fire extinguishers are located on the various buildings on the various floors, and then get them acquainted that with what procedures are in place for able to summon help, summon first aid, and whenever there's difficulty, they can go to their safety reps. Once a week they have toolbox safety meetings, and they give me a copy of those meetings, and then I look at them and I forward them to WCB as well, and to the various superintendents in the buildings that are applicable for a problem area, and we have a look at it. And then once a month, on the third Wednesday of the month, we have Occupational Health and Safety Committee meetings, a representative from all the sub-trades on site, so there's over 20 people meet together once a month and to discuss some common areas of concern and try and make recommendations to rectify and remedy the problems. Everybody's encouraged.
Is that the goal, to make safety as much a part of their routine as having wearing your tool belt?
Exactly. Appreciate too that you know, there's a possibility of injury at any given time, maybe through no fault of their own, through something on the part of another person, and so you can't control what other people can do or will do to you, and as a result, that's why we encourage hard hats, safety toes at all times, and eyeglasses when there's a danger of injuring their eyes, and that goes above and beyond the compensation regs, because compensation says wherever there's a danger the person can get hurt on their head or injury to their head, then they must wear a hard hat. But UNBC's policy is that everybody wears hard hats and safety toes, including the visitors. Everybody wants to come to work and make an income to provide for their families, and I want to see everybody going home safely to their wives and their families.
Thank you for watching the March 1994 edition of Spotlight on UNBC. Next month, we'll have stories on another milestone at the UNBC Library, a UNBC forum on South Africa, and the awarding of a contract which will make this one of the most high-tech university campuses in the country. Thank you for tuning in this month, and I'll see you again next month.